Welcome to the Diverse Deep Dives podcast. I am Juno Violet, an independent researcher who delves into and comprehensively investigates a wide spectrum of subjects.
And I'm Orion Daniel. As an independent researcher, I specialize in conducting exhaustive research across a broad array of thematic areas. My job today is really to help unpack all the dense material we've pulled together.
So today we're kind of opening up a treasure map.
That's a great way to put it.
It's this concept out of Japan, and it promises, well, not just happiness, but something more. This idea of extraordinary longevity.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack the idea of Ikigai.
Ikigai. It's been described as a sort of personalized guide to finding that rare combination of things you're naturally drawn to, things you're good at, and this is key, things that also benefit the world around you.
Essentially, yeah. It's figuring out that sweet spot where what the world actually needs and what it will reward lines up perfectly with your unique gifts.
And for this, our research took us all over the place.
It really did. We've synthesized a huge range of materials. We've looked at TED Talks, from people who've successfully integrated this. We've got into some pretty deep psychological texts on the human search for meaning.
And even sociological and nutritional studies.
Exactly, focusing specifically on the habits and culture of these communities in Japan where people live the longest. It's a truly holistic blueprint for a life well lived.
Okay, but before we get into the weeds, let's nail the pronunciation. Our research warns about this.
Good call. It's a common pitfall.
It's Ikigai. 2 smooth syllables. I think a lot of people get it wrong.
We do. And it's more than just a word, isn't it? It's the key. But, as we'll see, it's a key that demands consistent, disciplined effort. It's not about just passively waiting for purpose to find you.
Definitely not. So let's break down the word itself.
Right. So we found that the term Ikigai is actually a compound word. It's formed from iki, which means life.
Life.
And
right.
gai, which translates to something like purpose or worthwhile or the value of life.
I saw a more romantic translation in some of the texts.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
The happiness of always being busy.
Ah, yes. I love that one because it immediately flips the whole Western idea of success, where success is defined by leisure, by not having to work.
Exactly. This is about finding joy in the doing. And geographically, this idea it's completely tied to Okinawa.
Inextricably linked, yeah. It's a really special place culturally, historically, and of course it's famous for being one of the world's original blue zones.
Right. These areas that researchers identified where there are just these unusually high concentrations of centenarians.
People living healthily past 100. Longevity really thrives there. And when you ask them, they credit Ikigai as a huge part of that success.
What really got me was the linguistic breakdown you found, the characters in the written word.
Oh, it's fascinating. The character for kai, which means worthwhile, is itself so powerful. It can be broken down into symbols that mean armor or number one, like heading into action.
Like heading into battle.
Kinda, yeah. And that's coupled with symbols for beautiful or elegant. So this isn't some passive, meditative search for peace. It's about an active, engaged, beautiful life, a life worth fighting for.
That's a fantastic insight. And it makes so much sense when you look at the history of the island. Our research suggested we contextualize it against another famous Okinawan concept.
Karate.
Exactly, karate.
That parallel is so powerful. Karate was born out of pure necessity, right? Back in 1609, Japanese forces invaded and disarmed the local population.
So karate, it literally means empty hand.
It does. They had to develop this art of self-defense in secret just to survive. And that martial art, which American soldiers saw in World War II, it exploded and became a global phenomenon.
And the research suggests that, okay, while Ikigai isn't about physical combat, it is about a kind of spiritual and existential combat. It's about fighting against boredom and stagnation and meaninglessness.
Absolutely. It's the empty-hand approach to finding purpose.
Okay, so let's unpack the mechanics of this philosophical treasure map. The concept is often shown as a 4-part Venn diagram. We're calling it the 4 directions of the Ikigai compass.
Right, and this is really the core framework that you, as the listener, need to get your head around. Our research points to Ikigai being that perfect sweet spot, the intersection of 4 major areas of personal analysis.
Okay, let's go through them. What's the first one?
First, and maybe the most obvious, is do what you love, your passion.
Your passion.
Second is do what you're good at. This is your vocation, your skill.
And these first 2 are the ones people usually focus on, right? What I love, what I'm good at.
For sure. But the next 2 are where it gets tricky. The third is do what the world needs. This is your mission, your element of service.
And that's a big leap, moving from yourself to the needs of the community.
A huge leap.
Mm.
And finally, the fourth direction. Do what you can be rewarded for. Your profession.
And that's where it can all fall apart for people. It sounds like this perfect recipe for life, but those categories are often in conflict, aren't they?
They're absolutely in tension. Most people really struggle with points 3 and 4. How do you actually get paid for what you love? And is what you love even something the world needs?
It requires some intense, really honest personal exploration, which is why the advice we found is to approach it slowly. You don't just find your Ikigai overnight.
No, you kind of earn a yellow belt first. You build this skill before you can even think about mastery.
Let's talk about the intersections, because our research showed those are just as important. What happens when you only have 2 or 3 of the circles?
Right. So if you combine what you love and what you're good at, that's your passion. And it feels wonderful.
What?
But if it's not needed by the world or you can't get paid for it, you often end up with this feeling of satisfaction, but also a sense of uselessness. It's a hobby, not a purpose.
Okay. What about combining what you're good at and what you can be paid for?
That's your profession. Now, for a lot of people, that's their whole life. It provides stability, security.
But without the passion or the mission, it can lead to feeling empty. You're comfortable, maybe even complacent, but there's no spark.
Exactly. Then you have the intersection of what the world needs and what you can be paid for. That's your vocation or your calling.
This sounds pretty good. High impact work, social value.
It is good.
Yeah.
But if you don't actually love it or you're not particularly good at it, you end up feeling busy and useful, but ultimately drained. It's unsustainable. That's the path to burnout.
And the last combination, what you love and what the world needs.
That's your mission. It's incredibly meaningful work. It provides this altruistic joy, but if it doesn't pay, it's financially. No, it's a struggle. You have all this passion, but you might not be able to put food on the table.
So the real magic, the Ikigai, is getting all 4 to overlap.
That's the goal. And the journey starts internally. The advice is to forget the external world for a moment. Just focus on activities that hit those first 2 quadrants, what you love and what you're good at.
And that usually happens in the time that's actually yours.
Exactly. Outside of your job, outside of sleep. Some people call it the 5 to 9 as opposed to the 9 to 5. That's where you earn your yellow belt.
And we really need to distinguish 2 modern takes on this. There's the side hustle, and then there's what our research calls side helpfulness.
The very important distinction. The side hustle is usually geared toward financial profit, right? Skill acquisition. And we see this everywhere. Studies show something like 50% of millennials have a side hustle.
Because their main job isn't hitting that sweet spot. They're actively trying to build an alternate path to their Ikigai.
Right. But side helpfulness is different. It focuses purely on expanding the heart. Money is not the driver at all. And this is so important because, as we found in studies from Yale University on the science of well-being, humans are actually terrible at predicting what will make them happy.
We think it's the big house or the specific job title or more money.
We chase those material goals. But the research is clear. Those things rarely impact our baseline happiness in the long run.
And this is where the philosophy of Ikigai aligns so perfectly with modern behavioral science. True happiness, the kind that lasts, isn't found in accumulating stuff.
No. It's found in things like practicing kindness, in reflective meditation, in building strong relationships, and in what researchers call time affluence.
Time affluence, I love that term. It's that feeling that you have control over how you spend your time.
It's a huge component of well-being. And if you look closely at the definition of Ikigai, it's not defined by nouns, it's defined by action verbs. It's to serve, to create, to delight, to nourish, to teach.
To heal, to connect, to build.
Exactly. These are all actions that are rewarding in and of themselves, regardless of the paycheck at the end. If you find a verb on that list that really resonates with you, you're on your way.
So if we were to make an equation out of it, the Ikigai life is something like time affluence plus your gifts plus rewards in return.
And those rewards are not just financial. They're internal satisfaction, external recognition, community connection.
Right. That frame shifts purpose from being some fixed destination to being a continuous fulfilling process.
And that focus on process and meaning leads us right into the realm of psychology.
It really does. Our research highlights 2 profound approaches to finding purpose, both developed around the mid-20th century: logotherapy and Morita therapy.
Let's start with logotherapy. It was pioneered by an Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist, Viktor Frankl. It's a really powerful, future-focused discipline.
And he defined it in contrast to traditional psychoanalysis, right?
He did. He famously said that in analysis, the patient lies on a couch and tells the doctor things that are hard to say.
Hmm.
In logotherapy, the patient sits up straight and has to listen to things that are hard to hear.
Namely,
Namely, that you have to find your own unique meaning in life, and absolutely no one else can do it for you. It's your responsibility.
that's a heavy concept. It really pushes the patient to consciously discover a reason to live that hasn't been realized yet. And his core belief was that health depends on tension.
Yeah, the natural tension between what we've already done and what we still strive to do. It's a profound idea.
Mm.
We are not meant for a life of complete peace and quiet. We need challenges. We need goals. We need to be striving.
Purpose is sustained tension. I like that.
And this perspective was. It was forged in the most extreme environment you can imagine,
The concentration camps.
Auschwitz and Dachau. He observed that the prisoners who had some vital, unfulfilled task waiting for them outside the camp, a book they had to finish, a child they needed to see again, those are the ones with the greatest chance of survival.
And his own purpose was rewriting his manuscript.
Exactly. It had been confiscated when he arrived. That burning need to transmit his knowledge to the world, that's what gave his life meaning, even in the midst of that constant horror.
The case studies from his work are they're so powerful. The story of the American diplomat, for example.
Oh, that's a classic. This diplomat, he hated his career, felt miserable. He went to a traditional American psychoanalyst who, following the Freudian model, attributed all his misery to unresolved issues with his father.
With the government being the stand-in for the father figure.
Of course. But Frankl just cut right through all that intellectualizing. He realized the man wasn't suffering from some deep-seated paternal complex. He was suffering from existential frustration. His life felt wasted because he was in the wrong career.
The solution wasn't years of therapy.
No. The solution was to change careers. And when the man finally did, 5 years later, he found happiness. Frankl's conclusion was that he wasn't really a patient at all. He was just a person searching for a new life's meaning.
And then there's the even more famous story, the grief-stricken doctor.
So powerful. This doctor was just utterly destroyed after his wife died. He was deeply depressed.
And Frankl didn't try to analyze the grief or offer platitudes.
No, he just asked him a hypothetical question. He said, "What would have happened, doctor, if you had died first?"
Wow.
And the doctor, horrified, immediately said that his wife would have suffered unimaginably, that she might have just collapsed into despair.
And then Frankl reframed it.
He offered this profound reframing. He said, "You have spared her all that terrible suffering, but the price you have to pay is to survive her and mourn her."
So his suffering became his purpose.
Yes, the doctor found purpose in bearing the pain for her. It was his final, unspoken duty in their relationship. He left Frankl's office not cured of grief, but at peace with its meaning.
That is the essence of logotherapy, isn't it? Finding a why to live, which lets you bear almost anyhow.
It directly confronts what Frankl called the existential vacuum, the emptiness plaguing modern society. The focus is always forward, towards an action, a creation, a meaning yet to be realized.
Okay, now let's pivot across the globe to a very different but related approach. Morita therapy.
Developed in Japan by a Zen Buddhist named Shoma Morita, where Frankl focuses on future meaning, Morita focuses relentlessly on present action.
And this is a really stark contrast to most Western psychological approaches.
A huge contrast. It's not about trying to control or change your emotions. It's about absolute acceptance of them. Emotions are seen as fundamentally uncontrollable, like the weather.
You can't stop a storm from coming.
You can't. You can only observe it. The core idea is that your feelings change as a result of your actions, not the other way around. If you sit around waiting to feel motivated, you might be waiting forever.
That's a massive shift for a Western mindset, where we're trained to believe we can think our way out of a bad mood.
It is. Morita therapy has 3 core principles. First, accept your feelings. Don't try to suppress negative thoughts. Trying to fight them only makes them stronger. You have to welcome the feeling, observe it, and let it pass.
Make a cloud in the sky.
Exactly. The second principle is do what you should be doing. This is the discipline part. You focus intensely on the present moment, on the action required right now. You avoid intellectualizing your suffering. Recovery comes from purposeful action.
And the third principle ties it all together.
Discover your life's purpose, your Ikigai. Since we can't control our emotions, we have to control our actions. And our purpose, our Ikigai, must be the guide for those daily actions. It grounds you in the reality of, what productive thing must I do right now?
The original therapy itself was incredibly intense.
Oh, very structured. It would last 15 to 21 days. And the first phase was the most radical. Complete isolation and rest.
The patient was put in a room with no external stimuli, no talking, no reading, not even looking out the window.
For days. All they could do was observe their own thoughts. The goal was deliberate sensory deprivation. Initially, the patient is overwhelmed by anxiety, but eventually they become desperately bored. They start to yearn to do something, anything.
That's the natural life force reasserting itself.
That's the theory. Once that existential hunger for action appears, they move to light occupational therapy, keeping a diary, walking in nature.
But then comes the really rigorous part.
Intense physical tasks. The research cites examples of Dr. Morita taking patients into the mountains to chop wood, just immersed in physical labor, only allowed to talk about the task at hand. It forces them to find meaning in immediate, tangible, physical accomplishment.
It's a complete retraining of the mind, action over analysis.
And through that action and embracing self-responsibility, the patient moves from this paralyzing self-obsession to deriving meaning from contributing to the world around them. They find their Ikigai by doing, not by thinking.
This connects so perfectly to a modern anecdote we found. It was about a student who really struggled with this idea of societal expectation versus chosen action.
Right. She was at a really prestigious school, but she was struggling academically. She couldn't use good grades as her weapon in life, so to speak.
So she compensated in other ways: performance, singing, being choir captain, being visible.
But her grades were still low. And while all her friends were on track to become lawyers and doctors, she was just wrestling with this question of what actually brings me joy and what am I good at that the world might value?
And her breakthrough came almost by accident.
Yeah. She started selling clothes from what she called her vomiting closet. All the stuff she couldn't wear on a little online platform she built herself.
And she discovered she actually enjoyed the process.
She did. The logistics were tedious, but the curation, the packaging, that feeling of providing something tangible to someone else,
Yeah.
it was deeply fulfilling, more fulfilling than her schoolwork.
So at 18, she registered it as a formal business, but the thrifting model wasn't really scalable where she was.
So she pivoted. Her family traveled abroad regularly, so she started a personal shopping venture. And every single day, she just showed up for it. It was the Morita principle in action. Action first.
But the conflict with her family's expectations must have been huge.
Oh, intense. Her parents were worried constantly about the instability. They urged her to get a safe, stable government job, which was the typical path to success in her culture.
But she listened to her inner voice.
She did, and when her parents were stressing about how hard she was working, the long hours, the uncertainty, she shared this incredibly powerful insight. She said, "Life is hard. It's a matter of choosing your hard."
That is a phenomenal takeaway.
Isn't it? It's hard to eat healthy and stay fit, but it's also hard to be unfit and deal with the health problems.
And starting your own joyous venture is incredibly hard, but staying in a comfort zone that's draining your soul, that's also hard.
She just chose the difficult path that aligned with her true self. She found her Ikigai by unleashing her inner fire. She realized she had this platform, this community, and a privilege with her family's travel, and she could bridge those to contribute something of value.
That story is a perfect illustration of the courage it takes to choose your own purposeful path.
It really is. And the moment she chose her heart, she moved out of that state of anxiety and into what we now call a state of flow.
Right. So once you've identified your ikigai, your deep purpose, the next step is actually achieving this state of flow. It's a term coined by the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
And flow is that beautiful, almost timeless state where you're so deeply concentrated on what you're doing that your perception of time, of yourself, of your surroundings, it all just fades away.
We've all felt this, right? When hours just disappear while you're cooking or reading or playing an instrument, your ego dissolves and you become one with the activity.
And Csikszentmihalyi's research showed that this state is universal. People across all cultures and age groups achieve it in the same way, which means we can actually engineer our lives to experience it more often.
Okay, so how do we do that? Our research points to 3 key strategies.
The first one is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
You have to find the sweet spot between challenge and skill.
The challenge skill sweet spot.
Exactly. The task has to be difficult enough to stretch you, to take you just a little bit outside your comfort zone, but not so difficult that you feel overwhelmed because that triggers anxiety and pulls you right out of flow.
Right. If it's too easy, you get bored. If it's too hard, you get anxious.
The trick is continuous, incremental challenge. Always add a little something extra. If you're a chef, try a technique you failed at 6 months ago. Constantly nudge yourself into that optimal zone.
Okay, strategy number 2. This one feels very relevant for today. Have a compass, not just a map.
Yes, this means you need a clear, concrete objective before you start. Vague goals like work on my novel are a recipe for procrastination.
You need daily metrics.
You do. How many words will I write today? How many pages will I read in the next hour? But, and this is the vital part, once you start the action, you have to let go of the outcome.
An Olympic athlete can't be thinking about the gold medal in the middle of a jump.
They'd fail. A writer who's obsessing over whether the book will be a bestseller will get writer's block. You have to be fully present in the moment of creation.
And the third strategy is maybe the biggest obstacle for all of us now: monotasking.
The great modern impediment to flow. Our research is so clear on the dangers of the multitasking epidemic. Our brains can only process a tiny amount of information at a time. When we think we're multitasking, we're actually just task switching really, really fast.
And it's incredibly inefficient.
The studies are alarming. Switching rapidly between, say, email, a chat window, and a spreadsheet reduces your productivity by at least 60%. And it temporarily lowers your effective IQ by more than 10 points.
There was that famous Stanford study.
Right. They proved that habitual multitaskers were significantly worse at filtering relevant information from irrelevant noise. Their brains were literally trained to pay attention to every possible distraction, which makes focused flow impossible.
So we have to proactively control our attention.
Or our devices will control us. This means we need daily rituals designed to protect our flow. Things like the Pomodoro technique, 25 minutes of focused work, 5-minute break.
And designated technology fasting.
Absolutely. No screens for the first hour you're awake or the last hour before bed. Turn off all notifications. Put your phone in another room when you're trying to achieve flow.
This idea of dedicated perseverance, it's deeply respected in Japanese culture. They call it ganbaru.
And it's epitomized by their master artisans, the Takumi.
These experts are the pinnacle of flow integrated into daily work. They're often specialists in these incredibly minute crafts.
Like the master who makes a specific, irreplaceable screw for Toyota by hand. Or technicians producing turntable needles that require microscopic attention to detail. They're just utterly absorbed in their work.
We found this beautiful example of a Takumi in Kumano, a woman making cosmetic brushes in a tiny, quiet workshop.
And the description of her was just, her hands were described as dancing and flowing, moving with this incredible speed and grace, sorting individual bristles. She achieved this effortless unity with the object she was creating.
Her job had become an art form. It's Ikigai made manifest.
And this dedication inspired people like Steve Jobs. He was famously impressed not just by their technology, but by the quiet quality of Japanese craftsmanship.
And of course, there's the great sushi master, Jiro.
A perfect example.
Yeah.
He's practiced his craft for over 8 decades. And his flow doesn't start in the kitchen. It starts at the source, at the fish market.
What's so telling is that he prioritizes the conditions for flow over everything else, including expansion. His restaurant is tiny. It only serves about 10 people.
He has consciously resisted franchising or growing his business because that would disturb the conditions he needs for total concentration. It's connected to the Shinto belief that even objects have a spirit, a kami, that the artisan's dedication brings to life.
Even global geniuses protect this state. Hayao Miyazaki from Studio Ghibli
Famously uses an old 1990 cell phone, still draws everything by hand. He protects his flow above all else. There's that story that just days after he announced his retirement, he was filmed coming in the studio on a major national holiday just to draw by himself.
His Ikigai is drawing. He'll sacrifice anything to remain in that state.
But what about the boring stuff? The tasks we all have to do that seem to have no potential for flow.
This is where the concept of microflow comes in. It's the art of adding a layer of complexity or ritual to make mundane tasks enjoyable.
It's a way to cheat boredom. Think of the elevator operator in a Tokyo department store. They don't just push buttons, they turn it into a performance.
Yeah.
A sequence of graceful bows, movements, song-like announcements.
Or Bill Gates, who apparently enjoys washing dishes every night because he follows a very specific, precise order. Plates first, then silverware, then cups.
That ritual, that self-imposed constraint, it transforms a chore into a focused meditative moment, a microflow instant vacation.
This shows how important rituals are in general. They give us clear rules and objectives, which makes it easier to get into a state of flow.
It's why in Japanese business culture, the process and the manners are often valued even more than the final result.
The ultimate takeaway here seems to be, focus on enjoying your daily rituals. The happiest people aren't the ones who achieve the biggest goals.
They're the ones who spend the most time in a state of flow, no matter what they're doing. It's about rituals over goals.
And that joy-filled, active approach to life is the direct path to longevity. Which brings us to the village of longevity, Ogimi, in Okinawa.
Ogimi is the living blueprint for the Ikigai lifestyle. The elderly people there are incredibly busy, but they're never hurried. They pursue their purpose calmly right up to their final years. The lack of worry is almost palpable.
And their social structure is the scaffolding that makes it all possible. Our research pointed to two core concepts. The first is moai.
Moai are these close-knit, informal groups, maybe 4 or 5 people with shared interests, who commit to looking out for each other for their entire lives. They're like an extended family.
And they pool their money.
Yeah, they make monthly financial contributions.
Yeah.
The surplus rotates among the members. It provides this incredible emotional and financial security. If someone has a bad crop or a medical issue, the moai steps in.
That deep sense of belonging, that guaranteed support, it must dramatically reduce stress.
It does. It lowers cortisol levels, which contributes directly to their physical longevity. It's a biological buffer against anxiety and isolation.
And the second concept is yuimaru.
Teamwork and mutual assistance. When a task is too big for one person harvesting rice, building a house, everyone just pitches in. This constant engagement ensures everyone feels useful and connected, no matter how old they are.
This sense of community is woven into their spiritual practices, too.
Deeply. The main indigenous religion is Ryukyu Shinto, an animistic faith where spirits, or kami, are believed to inhabit trees and rocks. It fosters this profound respect for nature and craft.
And every person is believed to have an immortal essence, a mabui.
Their life force. This spiritual context is the engine for their social habits. Because everyone's mabui is sacred and they're all connected through the land, the moai and yuimaru become essential moral obligations. They have to act to support the life force of others.
Their wisdom, when you read the interviews, is so simple and potent. One centenarian said, "The secret to a long life is not to worry. And to keep your heart young, don't let it grow old."
Another one said, "The key to staying sharp in old age is in your fingers, from your fingers to your brain and back again." They are never idle, always weaving, fishing, gardening.
And my favorite quote from a 98-year-old, "I'm 98, but I consider myself young. I still have so much to do."
It's that relentless optimism. And of course, it's all supported by their diet.
The famous Okinawa diet. The key isn't just what they eat, but how much. Which brings us to the saying, hara hachibu.
Which means, fill your belly to 80%. The lesson is simple, but so hard for us. Stop eating when you're starting to feel full, but you could still have a bit more.
And this has a direct biological impact.
It does. By consistently undereating, they reduce the energy needed for long digestive processes that accelerate cellular aging. It also keeps levels of a protein called IGF-1 lower, which is thought to speed up the aging process.
And the diet itself is just incredible variety. They eat something like 206 different foods regularly, about 18 different foods every single day.
It's literally eating the rainbow. And their calorie intake is very low, around 1,780 becquerel a day. Very little salt, sugar, or meat.
The food is also packed with antioxidants, like the shikawasa fruit, which has 40 times the nobelatin found in oranges.
And they drink sanpincha, that mix of green tea and jasmine which lowers cholesterol and relieves stress.
Finally, let's talk about movement. The longest living people aren't the ones who do the most strenuous exercise.
They're the ones who move the most. Our research had a stark warning. Sitting is detrimental. After just 30 minutes of sitting, your metabolism slows by 90%.
So the Okinawans are constantly moving, gardening, walking, playing low-impact sports like gate ball, which is a kind of croquet.
And they practice radio taiso. It's a 5-minute morning warm-up, often done in groups. It focuses on dynamic stretching and joint mobility. Crucially, it includes movements we almost never do, like raising our arms fully above our heads.
Things like Tai Chi and yoga are also powerful tools for this, creating that harmony between body and mind that protects against stress and disease.
So we've journeyed from the psychological struggle for meaning, through the discipline of flow, and into the physical reality of Ogimi. It's clear that Ikigai isn't about finding one perfect career.
No, it's a dynamic path. It's found through intense self-awareness, deep community engagement, disciplined action, and a mindful, active lifestyle.
The most inspirational thread through all of this, for me, is the idea that your meaningful life isn't some far-off destination. It's something you can start to enjoy right now, today, in small acts of flow. The journey is the reward.
Absolutely. For our final thought, we came across the story of the great artist Hokusai, who created the Great Wave. He lived to be 88, and he had this staggering perspective on his own work.
He famously claimed that everything he produced before he was 70 was completely worthless.
And he went even further. He said he believed that only by the time he reached 110 would all his work finally be instinct with life.
Truly infused with his spirit of mastery, it's a staggering perspective on human potential, isn't it?
It really is. If we take that view, then whatever we're doing today, our current passions, our efforts in flow, they're just sophisticated preparations for the profound work that will ultimately define us.
We are worth the work. And now we have the Ikigai map.
So we invite you to pause, look inward, and decide. What small act of courageous flow, driven by purpose and disciplined action, can you start today to ensure your future work, at any age, is truly instinct with life?